Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to SCAP Writers on Zoom. So we've been having a wonderful time these last few months. SCAP is a new charity, Seahorse Creative Arts and Publishing. And it's a new charity that we have running, trying to introduce people to dance, music, photography, art, and obviously creative writing. So we're having various classes with different groups, asylum seeker groups. We're about to work with people with addictions, people with some issues to do with anxiety, and then just hope they want to write poetry. One of the things that's really great about this is we can bring poets from all over the world, as well as Scotland. On our first event, we had Ross Donlan from Australia. We had the wonderful Kevin Higgins from Ireland, and then we had Anne from down south. So we haven't moved or diverted from that today. We have a wonderful poet with us as our special guest. She's really a rising star in Ireland and abroad, and we have been very fortunate, I think, to have her with us tonight. Is Annemarie Ni Churreain, and we are delighted that she's come along to join us. We also have Allan, who's again, I think, really just rocking himself back up into the poetry scene from what I can see, because everywhere I go, he's there. And I'm happy to see that. And I've had a couple of nights myself that I've been organised, and Alan's been there reading, so that's been wonderful. And we have Finn Hall. Finn Hall is a poet from the Northeast, who is a poet and a writer, and he's really a facilitator as well. He's been an enormous support for writers all across the world and here, including the Wanderlust Women and myself. We've read at his events up in Aberdeen. We've been at the Fitzlivo Festival, which was such a joy, and I think is running again this year. And our final writer is Morag Anderson. And Morag Anderson's another kind of rising star on the scene, a new poet, but she seems just to be award lifting and everywhere at the moment. So we're in for a treat of an evening. And thanks very much as ever to Mark for helping us to organise this. So welcome to the audience, and please check out these people afterwards. You'll get information about where you can locate them, buy their books, and then you can have them just to go over what you hear today. So thanks for joining us. And I'm now going to hand over to my co-host for SCAP, wonderful friend and amazing poet, Donna Campbell. Hello, my girl.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just going to have a gin. I'm going to have a Shetland gin.
Shetland gin. I am so looking forward to tonight. We have four very exciting poets, and again, all the different voices, the diversity that we've got in the poetry scene. The first poet that we have on is Morag Anderson. The first time that I heard Morag reading was up in Stonehaven for the Wee Gathering Festival. In fact, that was, I think, last year. Is it no, or the year before? I think you were actually there. It's been 2 years, and I was just blown away with your poetry and how you deliver it as well. It's very measured, but a lot of fun. And again, you do so much different stuff. And tonight, I think is very appropriate for what's been happening recently in the media with Fiona Bruce. So I'm just going to read Morag's bio. Morag lives in Highland Perthshire and is the 2023 marker of the Federation of Writers Scotland. Her debut chapbook, Sin, is due to open in a room above Kitty's, and it's Fly in the Wall Press 2021. Explores the complexities of human relationships. Her collaborative chapbook, How Bright the Wings Drive Us, won the Drake Alliance Competition 2021. Her poetry is widely published and anthologized. She was placed in the Oxford Brookes International Poetry Prize 2021, the Edwin Morgan Trust Poetry Competition 2021, and the Scottish Poetry Writers Library Best Scottish Poems 2021. Welcome, Morag Anderson.
Thank you very much for that fabulous introduction, Donna. It actually makes me think, I obviously didn't pull my finger out in 2022. I need to kind of get back in gear for this year. It's great to be here, and thank you to the audience for being here. I can talk to an empty room, but it's nice to have people listening. I thought about, what poems to read tonight. And usually, people have made the effort to come along. You should give them a bit of entertainment. It should be easy listening. But as Donna said, Fiona Bruce's inflammatory question time comments and the limp response by Refuge really compels me to read poems that address domestic violence in its various guises. So I'm going to dedicate this reading tonight to my friend and mentor, Kevin Higgins, whose sharp eye helped shape pretty much all of these poems. I'll start with a poem that kicks off my pamphlet, Sin is Due to Open, in a room above Kitty's. 2 doors down. He conjured coins from Sunday scrubbed ears, and the king of clubs from hems of skirts, daftest dad in our street. But when sleep snuffed his household, he slunk from stagnant sheets, placed a hesitant hand on the door's rose, and crossed the lilac carpet to finger the pink candlewick. Choosing to believe in space created by the child, rigid against ponies papered to her wall, he slid in. But when truth awoke his household, he shrunk inside. His bleeding brain was left too dead to repent. No one collected his ashes. They believe he is burning yet. The next one is The Heated Kitchen. But for the surge of colour your fist brought to my cheek, reflected in the specular drop at the tap's mouth, the tang of coins warm on my bloodied tongue, amplifying the tick of the cooling heater, the twist of hair in throttled gesticulation unravelling the thrum of voices next door, the broken doll blink of my ferrous eyelid, rasping the persistence of a distant dog, the slurry of words spewing your whiskey har, scorching the sweetness of blackened bananas, and the smothered sobs bonding sternum to spine, drowning the bell-curved pitch of a passing siren. It was an ordinary day. What it means to pray. He leans close enough to agitate the slip of space between us. Friction creates heat. A silent exhale grazes my hair. He swells and flares on the inhale. He is envious of the thin blue straps beneath my black dress, the ease with which certain fabrics rip. He snatches my attention like a shard of glass overstepped in a derelict building. Later, he will demonstrate desire for me in the cracked ribs of his current lover, who walks her house like the ghost of one who once lived. There is a casual attitude of violence against women in Scottish folk ballads. The singer-songwriter Corinne Polwart addresses this in many articles and podcasts, worth a read and a listen. She suggests that we reappraise the cruelty and injustices written and sung into our living traditions and I would agree with that. The next poem is my attempt to do so. Agnes Wilson is a girl who was stanged by Robert Burns's brother-in-law, the young Adam Armour, and she is the ger or wench that is referred to in the tongue-in-cheek Adam Armour's Prayer by Robert Burns. The unheard testimony of Agnes Wilson. When the last of the drinkers sink into waxen skin, adrift like sea-wrecked timber, and tinkers leave the tavern to sing in darker corners, I smoor the fire, bank heat for travellers asleep in rented cots, swing open the door to empty the night's slops from a tin pail. Grappling hands clamp my mouth, yank fistfuls of hair from my scalp, tear my apron, rip through linen to the stained scraps of an underskirt. Voices skid like stones on ice, break without forecast. The first kick from a boot, the second a shod hoof. Forced astride a knotted trunk, lashed to the flanks of restive horses, I am driven past the kirkyard's towering ash to the southern edge of the village. Left to repent, naked by the trickle of Cessnock water, the raw rage between my legs subdues the ripening bruises on my back. Lads of the old licht, I have always lamented nights spent serving foul ale and stale flesh to your fathers. The last poem was written for my son. Some of you will have heard it before. And at last, it's a poem of joy. Hurrah! Cheers. Arrival. Fresh from the warm wound of my body, he carves tooth marks on his cot and takes flight. A light-boned bird, he defies small-town weather, feathers a nest by an estuary where young stars explore nebulae. Today, he wears happiness like a top hat, tells the world it will not be heeded. I narrow my eyes at the calculation of him, study the gap between pencil's tip and paper. Arrows of light strike the polish of his cheekbones, drawn high and bright like Achilles' own. Lips, full as berries close to spoiling, cannot contain the width of unstained joy. He passes me a picture of a clear-skinned boy, tells me he has found first love, that breath belongs sometimes to air, sometimes to blood. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much for that. Just starting with your last poem there, it was when you're poem about your son, it's like, it's fizzy, it's like pinging, and it's just full of love. It's really, really beautiful. But your other poem, that as well, I think sometimes, I know for myself, if I'm doing quite serious stuff, that I feel that I need to lighten it up a bit. But I like listening to serious stuff and things that are saying something. Because I think for me, sometimes that was what poetry is all about, and how to communicate to other people. And the whole thing about domestic abuse, I think with your poems, I think the way you do your they're quiet poems, but they're not quiet. They're like banging away, but they're thrumming. You use the word thrum, but there's a thrumming all the way through them. There's a beat going on, but they're quiet as well. That one, and that the whole thing of the hiddenness of domestic abuse, and it is hidden mostly, and the shame, and that's why it's hidden a lot. And that one, the desire for me in the cracked ribs of his current lover, who walks her house like the ghost of one who once lived. And that again, it's so evocative, his desire for you, and it sounds he can't have you, so he is going to this other woman who he can have, and taking out his desire, his longing, wanting of you. So powerful, so powerful. And that as well from the heated kitchen. I really like that, the whiskey har, the slurry of words, the whiskey har. Like, I only found out what har meant maybe about 2 years ago or something like that. So just that idea of a whiskey har coming and floating over you. And the other poem they did about the father, and that I've seen you reading that, and he takes the coins out from you know, and it's like that, and this joker and that, but at night time, the devil comes out. Morag, thank you very much for your poems, absolutely stunning. And could you hold up your book again? Or even
sure.
See that, because there you are.
Open. Sin was actually a lap dancing club that was due to open above Kitty's, which was a bar in Kirkcaldy. I don't know if it ever happened. I stole the title from a local newspaper. So
I like it. It's a brilliant. That if I saw that in a bookshop, I would go because of the title. Yeah, Morag, thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
So now we are coming on to Finn Hall, who again, the first time I met Finn was up in, again in Stonehaven at the wee gathering. And Finn is very, about justice. You write very powerful poems as well, very, like you observe a lot in society. And Finn as well, we went up to, the Wanderlust women went up to New Pitsligo for Finn's festival that he's just started up there. And it's, the first one was last year, and then you've got the second one this year again. Yeah.
Yep. I'm sweating over it already, but yeah, it'll be fine.
But the Wanderlust women are really looking forward to coming back up again, Finn. So I'm going to read out some of Finn's bio. So Finn Hall, the New Pitsligo-based poet and artist, organizer extraordinaire. I like saying that word, extraordinaire. Finn is the host of Like a Bolt from the Blue, a poetry and spoken word event transcending the boundaries of physical and digital, welcoming in hundreds of creatives from across the globe, as well as a regular open mic at the Blue Lamp. Finn performs in a beautiful sensitivity. He isn't afraid to broach upon themes of old age, hope, love, and loss. Finn is also a filmmaker, collaborative writer, performance poet, and this year, as well as adding a second regular venue for his blot shows, the White Horse and Stricken, he produces the New Pitsligo Spoken Word Festival. And he has 2 solo collections, Once Upon a Time There Was, Now There Isn't, and Solidarity. Finn Hall, take it away, please.
All right, hello, glad to be here. I've got 3 pieces tonight. One is true, one is not really true, and the other one is totally different from anything I usually do. And the third one contains basically a lot of swearing, so be ready for it. This first one's called Closed Captions English Standard, and I wrote this in my taxi, like I do a lot of my writing in the first few weeks when we come out the very first lockdown. So it's kind of historic and true too. It's called Closed Captions English Standard. I wear hearing aids, and I'm what they call profoundly deaf. I hear, but sometimes I have difficulty picking out the actual words that people are saying. I find it hard sometimes to catch all the words that my fellow poets are saying when they do their reading. I wish the world came with subtitles. It's bad in my taxi with masks and the screen between me and my passengers to get them to speak clearly, to give me directions and their destination. I wish the world came with subtitles. Watching TV, it's great when the programs have closed captions, but I hate it when they don't, or on some demand shows, don't, or when the words are behind the actual audio, I wish the world came with subtitles. In this constantly masked off world, concessions are made for many, but city centres are blocked off for disabled people, and deaf people can get out, but can't see what you're saying. I wish the world came with subtitles. I play my music too loud, my radio goes on too loud, my podcasts go on too loud. I'm not too proud if you ask me to turn it down. I don't know. I don't realise. I can't be sure how it sounds to you. And I know how it sounds to me. Loud, but not too. I wish the world came with subtitles. I mean, hearing aids aren't perfect. They don't make things normal. They help. I'm not ignoring you. Your words are important, very important. It's just, well, I can't explain, which is strange for one who uses words to make a point, tell a story, let you know. Sorry. I wish the world came with subtitles. I take them out. Almost silence. Can barely hear the washing machine, the noisy washing machine when I'm in the kitchen beside it. The morning alarm, it rings for ages, disturbing my wife, waking her when she doesn't need to be awake. I don't hear it until it gradually gets louder. I wish the world came with subtitles. I wasn't born this way. It's hereditary. My grandma on my father's side, then my dad, but he never went and seen about it. Then me, and then my daughter. My grandma's head was big and hung on a strap beneath her top. It squeaked feedback if you went too close. You had to speak into the box at times to be heard in a world before subtitles. I do take them out and enjoy the silence, switching mine off or taking them out and being alone in my head. Enjoy the silence of being at one with me. But then I still need to know when I get shouted down for tea. And yes, I realise that I should check to see if the volume on my phone is up. But wouldn't it be great if the world came with subtitles? Floating in the air, words destined for only the people that are meant for. Or flick an imaginary switch and you can see everybody's word. Floating, soaring, shouting, swearing, counting, caring. Perfect for words for a found poem. The silence of constant chatter in a world where words do matter. Choose your font, choose your language, hit translate. What's that? Too late. Your word escaped in the breeze to hide amongst the trees. A world, not perfect, but with subtitles. This one is it's called The Whole, and it's actually part of a half-hour long-form piece show thing set that I've written and actually only performed once, called The Whole. There's a hole in my life like no other hole has ever been. A hole that no amount of thoughts and prayers and hugs and kisses, sympathetic warm wishes will ever fill. So wide and deep and seemingly bottomless, empty and dark. Since your brown eyes closed for the last time and your lungs held no more air. A void caused by something none of us can avoid. At least we shared a life, shared memories. I feel lucky as I recall them. Remember that time at the beach with the golden sand, the wind that blew little spurling whirls that barely travelled before hitting the waves and vanished in the spray? Or when we went scuba diving off the rocks by the blue lagoon, I panicked, you swam over, touched my arm and gave me the okay sign. I knew then I'd be all right. You were my hero that day. And what is life for if not creating memories? I am joyous when I remember when we first met. I saw your face across the room where you dropped in past a mutual friend's house. I was there, a single parent with my 2 young children clambering over me, having fun. I stopped, looked over, was captured, captivated by those deep brown eyes. They seem so long ago now. The hall brightens though, thinking this. Still there, still emptiness, still happiness to have shared this small time and space in the world with you. You're heroic, it will be all right. Eyes in the photo on the shelf still guide me through my doubts. They seem to quietly shout, you can do it. You'll be fine. Right, and this next one is, lots of swearing. It's actually called Ode to Fuck. Sanctimonious people lurk in purple corners, prim and proper in their minds, popping out to hear your tale. Eyes wide, attentive ears, eager listeners, just your kind. Silent and paying attention, lest they miss a salient point. Nodding heartily in agreement, as from the cloisters of your mind, blessed words from you anoint. Then there's that look. Oh, you know what it means. Hey, I was right with you there until you swore. I swore? Of course I fucking swore. Just be objective of the adjective. I'm describing fuckers like you. You know, you're aware with you. No need for that stare. There are several degrees of annoyance. Yeah, they're a bit annoying. God, aren't they annoying? No, they really are annoying. For fuck's sake, why the fuck do you have to be so fucking annoying? Living as we do, they do, with sideways glances in the 21st century patter vacuum, judging others for their choice of words when anything else would be absurd. It's not a hole. It's not a big hole. It's a fucking big hole. There's no other way to say it. Like coffee shops and vape stores and sadly beggars, there's one of you on every corner. You can't tell me what to write or what to say. You're not my editor in any fucking way. It's my poem, my story. My, you're getting on your high horse over things I say and speaking thus. I have no shame shadow hanging over me, no looking eyes or false remorse. My course is not deliberately coarse. My path not rife. But you are still the tip of us. And I don't suffer from kudoklasm. You're fucking with me, well, I don't give a toss. I can tell you to go off, but that makes no sense. But as if I say, fuck off. Thank you.
And I won't fuck off. I'm here. I'm here. Absolutely brilliant. Just ode to fuck. A lot of the times swearing is, you just can't do without swearing because it's the only thing that will get a point across. I usually swear when I'm happy. I never, if I'm arguing with someone, I never ever swear. But when I'm happy, I'm fucking this, fucking that, everything. I love swearing. And you swear well. You swear well. And I felt you were talking to me. That's what I noticed in your poetry. It's very conversational, and I feel you're actually speaking right to me as the audience, as an observer. And your first poem as well about being deaf, hard of hearing, being deaf. I remember one time I was in India and the pollution was that bad. My ears got all blocked up. And it was that feeling of not being connected. I was totally unconnected from everything. So I could maybe get a wee bit of an understanding of what it must be like for you and for other people. But that, I was thinking about as well, you were speaking about the imaginary switch and then words would come up. And I think that's probably something for the future. You know, they're talking about putting a little thing in our necks. I think that is possibly that you're seeing into the future, you're predicting the future there.
Excuse me, there is somebody posted on the Facebook the other day that there is glasses in the market somewhere that are about $300 each, and only for Android devices with an app and the subtitles. And when you're speaking, not here, just outside people, it pops up in your glasses, like. So it's there.
There already. Wow. I could imagine though, if they're in America, we usually are behind America, so they should be over here shortly. That'd be quite weird. I think that would mess about with your eyesight. So it would, you'd fall down that black hole, that hole. That as well, the idea about choosing your own font size for your words. I like that idea. I don't know what font size. That's maybe something to think about, is what font size would you choose for your words? Aye, I'll leave you with that. I'll let you sit in that one. And you're right as well about life creating memories. That's what we are. We're made up of memories. And without them, we are not who we are. Aye, that was brilliant as well. Your delivery is I love the conversational tone. Finn Hall, thank you very much. Thank you. And now we are going to hand back over to Miss Linda Jackson, my colleague and good friend, and my my colleague.
Partner in crime, partner in crime.
Partner in crime, that was the word that I was looking for. And Linda is having a little gin and tonic.
Indeed, very small one, but it's a big goblet with just a small gin in it.
Oh, there you go.
I love that. You can nearly hide yourself in there.
Linda, I shall hand it back over to you to introduce our next two fabulous guests.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on. I hope you're all enjoying it out there. I've loved it. Just yeah, exactly what Donna was saying there, the kind of performances as well. You know, these are not average readings here. We heard people really pouring what they have into these performances thus far. Quite incredible. And that moves me on to speak of our next guest, who's Allan Gaw. And one of the things that I have been really impressed when I watch Allan is his performance of his poetry. He read Avant-Garde recently, and he just really, he harbours the stage and he holds it. And it's as if he's just learned everything, you know, and is really, really au fait with his own work in a way that I think is quite difficult. You can maybe feel like that when you get up in front of people, but never. I don't know if he's got a background in drama. I can maybe ask him, but he's just really performs his work as our other two have. But that was one of the things I noticed immediately about Allan. And yeah, I've seen him now performing a couple of times. Lovely guy, and I'm looking forward to hearing what he's got to read for us this evening. He his own description of himself: he's a pathologist by training, but he's a writer by inclination, which I think is sweet. Pathology, poetry. He writes short stories, novels, and poetry, and he recently won the UK Classical Association Creative Writing Competition, the International Alpine Fellowship Writing Prize, and the International Globe Soup 7-Day Short Story Writing Challenge. His stories have been widely published: Glasgow to Saturn, Edinburgh Literary Salon, Clandestine Press in Australia. His poetry I have seen in Greek, Sour Plumes, and Black Bigot poetry. You can tell me, Allan. So you're in for a treat here. I've just been reading some of Allan's poems and listening to them recently. Allan Gaw.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda. It's very kind of you for that introduction. It's lovely to be here in such a wonderful grouping of poets, and so good that we have such an audience tonight. I want to read 4 short poems for you this evening. The first one is about heartbreak. Best to get that out of the way right at the start, perhaps. So this is Night Song. The heavy sea is sighing in the night, hushing me to sleep with weary waves of white noise washing on a shingle shore. There was a time when I had the rhythm of your sleeping breath to comfort me in the dark, but now you rest your head on another pillow. The sea will never leave me though, It has made no promises to stay, nor idly talks of always, as if the meaning of eternity might be known to such as us. Every night since time began, that tide has beat its breath upon this shore, and countless eons more will hear its heave hastening home, then harnessed on the breeze. But those waves know better than to talk of forever, yet still they take their time to shiver the silence and soothe me in the night. Thank you. And in case you think my life is all about despair, this next poem is a love letter to a textile artist who is the love of my life. And this is cloth. Give me cloth. Tie your threads together, under, through, and over. Be deft. Weave me new and comfort me with the warmth of wool. Bring me dreams. Spin your hopes together and draw them out as one. Be true. Craft the warp, the weft, stitch by stitch on tomorrow's loom. Cut me free. Sew your twist and silken twine, careful not to catch. Be kind. Dash the shuttle, pull the cord and turn the wheel for good. Wrap me tight. Thread your needles and draw them long to make short work. Be soft. Swathe my life, my swaddling to my shroud, with all your love. Thank you. And now for something very different. My professional life has been all about disease, studying it, diagnosing it, fighting it. And naturally, we always think about that from our own human perspective. But lately, I've been thinking about it from the disease's standpoint, perhaps trying to give them a voice, if you like. So this is a prose poem about one particular beastie that's been concerning us of late. And the title is the full Sunday name of the virus in question. This is Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, Coronavirus 2. I am a thing of beauty, symmetry, design. Even if I had no purpose, you would still find me fascinating. A shimmering glitter ball, arrayed with a crown of thorns, almost ecclesiastical, certainly majestic, despite my size. You place too much store in scale, though. Everything smaller than you is somehow unimportant. You thought me insignificant. Well, I am small, by your standards, very small. But I think you have a little more respect for me now than perhaps you had before. You see, I am not merely ornamental. I have function as well as form. I come in numbers you cannot hope to count. I come as an army, and I come with teeth. There was so much you could have done, and so little you chose to do. Perhaps next time you'll be better prepared, but I doubt it. I am still as beautiful as I always was, and I expect I'll dazzle you all again. You see, that is my purpose, my beauty, in all its perpetuity. I will long outlive you, but whatever comes next will doubtless serve as another useful host, perhaps even a better one than you. I adapt, I shift, I infect, I kill, and I move on to the next. Your masks and your machines, your hand rubs and your needles, so sweet. But don't you know that in the end, I always win? So let's not say goodbye, just farewell. Until the next time. Thank you. And lastly, another viral voice, but this time a little beastie that you may not have heard of. This is variola, which is the causative agent of smallpox. I suppose you could say my best days are behind me. There was a time when I was successful, the talk of the place, contagious, airborne, disfiguring, fatal. So successful that they targeted me to shut me down. They'd never done that before, and no one really thought they could. I mean, at the time, I was everywhere. But somehow, they managed it. Eradication. A global first. Much jubilation. So I haven't been out and about for a while. Decades, in fact. And no one has seen my work firsthand for a generation. Now, I'm so cold, frozen, and it's dark inside this prison, except when they open the door and the light goes on. Then I see them with all their protective gear. They whisper in my presence, worrying that I might overhear their plans, as if I could escape from this little labelled vial all on my own. They check me every week, just a secret sample in a government facility. Which government? Does it matter? They're all the same in the end. Oh, there's the light again. But I don't recognise that voice. Different accent. And no gloves. Strange. Was that gunfire? At least his pocket's warm. Looks like I'm on the move once again. Thank you very much.
Wow. What a performance. What a performance. As I did say, I watched you do a couple of these poems, and just those viral poems. I mean, I'm often encouraging people to just try and take the narrative position of something abstract, but those last two poems, the coronavirus and then smallpox, quite malignant, Allan. You know, you would be you could make a terrible wizard in a film. God, I was terrified there. I was ready to go and scrub out my bin. I was petrified of the virus.
Well, that was the plan. I'm trying to get people to scrub their bins.
Oh my Lord, that was quite terrifying. I mean, I think the whole thing about the first one and just the inadequacy of the one about the coronavirus, the inadequacy of human beings, you know, and the beauty. It was like a powerful, that whole idea. Funny enough, when we was in Barga, we went to this artist studio who was doing huge coronavirus shapes with Madonnas sticking out of each one of them.
Yeah.
So it was the holier than thou virus. You had the most beautiful, dazzling virus. I just thought, and then her beauty is just taking a quiet time just now, but it will be back, you know. And I think hearing that from you, knowing your job, is doubly terrifying. You know, it's not just an abstraction. And then again, when you went on to the one at the end there, the idea that, you know, human interference with the spread of these things, gunfire, you know, they can be used in terms of human beings with malignant intent. That was just wonderful. And the way the other one being a wee bit cold, but there's just a threat in both poems, the threat, and he's only cold for a little while because he knows there's a pocket coming and he's being carried in the heat. Amazing, amazing poetry. And also the first one, I liked the comparison with the love, because both of them talked about forever in some way, which is also such a big concept when you're madly in love with somebody. It's that whispered word that kind of strikes a hole in your heart because it didn't happen the last time forever. It might not again. But I think you applied it to both, you know, and the idea that the tide going in and out, we should learn from it, because it doesn't pretend that this is for always. It's leaving. But then in the cloth poem, I loved that extended metaphor you used about the person dealing with cloth, that the love would be weaved, it would be behind the shuttle, everything, the whole thing was just about, but in there as well, there was a moment when you said, for good, you know, whatever it was, I can't remember the line before that, but it was for good. And I thought that forever, that desire we all have when you're madly in love, to have it be always, you know, I think you really brought that across. One not and the other one, yes. You know, I really, really loved all of these poems. Thank you very much. And I'm hoping to see them in a collection. Whenever, just let me know. Allan, thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much.
Quite a contrast as well. So what a wonderful night we're having. I'm just so enjoying the differences and the different voices, the different sounds. And we are now at the point where we're going to introduce our special guest, and I feel, you know, honoured, to be honest, that we have her here, and I think a lot of people feel that way. Without doubt, a rising star in that Irish horizon and further afield. My first encounter was last year when Donna, Leslie and I went over to Trinity College and the Abbey Bookshop and Smith's Bookshop in Dublin. And we had this concept where we would invite in a walk-in woman from wherever we went to. We would invite someone from that place to be our walk-in woman. And Charlie Gracie, actually, hi Charlie, I know you'll be there. Hi Charlie, he suggested we get in touch with Annemarie Ni Churreain, and I did that. And I loved her response because she's really adamant about trying to secure funding and support for writers. You know, I always remember people that know me know I sing, and I remember when they were doing I'm So Old, when they were building the Scottish Parliament building, someone kind of said to me there, you know, it'd be good if you could do a little bit jazz for the opening night. We'll get different acts on, and I was saying, yeah, I was over to see them in Edinburgh. I thought it'd be lovely. That would be really good. Chatted away, and it was all the deal, you know, saxophone, piano, and voice, and it was all happening, and I was to be very excited. But no one had mentioned any remuneration, so I kind of said quietly, "Hello, you know, hello. Is there any chance of a bit of dosh?" Without putting it quite bluntly, and he said, "Oh, I bet that'd be a great honour for you to do it." And I said, "See, when you needed the plumbing done in here, is that what you said to the plumber? That it'll be an honour? You know, what is it about the arts?" So Annemarie is, you know, she's a force behind that. But more than that, more and much more than that, she's a magnificent writer. So we watched her get up on the stage in the bookshop, and we thought, all right, well, here comes this presence in the room and this wonderful poetry. Her book, Poison Glen, which I have there on the table. If you don't have this book, I've introduced it to student groups. And in fact, it's one of the poems I read at our International Women's Day. We were to pick 3 poets. Well, we did one of our own, one of a live poet, and one of someone who's no longer with us. And I did Anne-Marie's Ghost Girl from this. And people got in touch with me afterwards to comment on it. So she was astonishing when she got up and read. And as I say, one of the big things was just an aura. And I hope she doesn't feel embarrassed, but that was an aura around her of pure presence. Yeah, so I want to read to you Anne-Marie's biography. She's a poet from the Donegal Gaeltacht in Ireland. Her books are Bloodroot and The Poison Glen. She's been the recipient of the Arts Council Next Generation Award, as a co-recipient of the Markowitz Award. The Yale Review reported that she often captures a whole world of cultural and historical implications in a single, simple, but metaphorically rich image. And I would 100% testify to that. This book just makes you want more and more. You want it to be a bigger collection. When you get to the end, you read it again, and then you feel sad that it's finished. It's like a novel in that way. You just don't want it to finish. She has received fellowships and awards from the Jack Kerouac House in Florida, Centre Culturel Irlandais in Paris, Académie Schloss Solitude in Germany. She's the guest editor 2023 for Poetry Ireland. What else? And it's just the idea of what's coming for this woman, what is coming ahead in terms of awards and books for us. Please welcome Annemarie Ni Churreain.
Thank you, Linda. Good evening, Aharja Maradiv. I'm delighted to be with you at the tail end of this lovely blue twilight hour in Dublin. And it's a deep pleasure to be sharing this space with Morag and Finn and Allan. And I hope that someday soon we get to be in a physical space together. So I am going to read poems from my collection, The Poison Glen, which is a book very much rooted in the Donegal landscape in Northwest Ireland, where I grew up. And I'll start at the start, which is to say that I will begin at home with a poem that features the word mare, M-A-R-E, and not the other mare. It's titled The Mare's Eye. On the hill of saints, we hang white sheets against the sun. I raise them up, my mother pegs the corners. To become a woman is to become not unlike an animal, she says, as she braids my hair into a river down along the center of my skull. Someday you will be beautiful. We milk the goats, we wash the walls, we feed all the infant mouths and all the cots. One day the gods will offer you choices. My mother, who left the field of her father for my father's field, walks out sometimes in the rain to stand on the edge of ferns and look into the mare's eye deep. In the attic, there are sounds at night. In the pine cupboard, there is a rope. But the mare's eye is an orb that shines as whole and undisturbed as any future she might yet encounter. Perhaps she sees within that iris a transformed shadow of the many-chambered heart. I am teaching you to know the earth, she says. Look at my hands, they're already bone. So mothers to be and ghost mothers feature quite heavily in both my first book, Bloodroot, and in this book. And this next poem remembers my grandmother, who in the 1950s was unmarried and pregnant and sent to a mother and baby home. This poem is an ode to her and others like her, who seemed to be disappeared from their homes overnight. The daughter who went missing. If I were to tell you that a vigil was held, candles lit, prayers said, or that long beams of silver torchlight scanned the village in search, or that the river bailiff soaked by rain was forced to plead with the villagers, somebody must know something, I would be lying. Quietly, darkness fell upon railway tracks, outhouses, derelict sheds, upon an empty nest curled into a leafless oak, upon a foothold trap shimmering in the forest like a buried star. As all night the river kept rising, the mess at the end unstirred, and outside the house of the missing girl, a black raven cawed, traitors, traitors, traitors. The Poison Glen is in fact a place in Donegal associated with Lu, the god of light, who, according to legend, was stolen from his mother Ethna and sent into fosterage And a few years ago, I was walking in the glen under a beautiful sterling moon, and this poem arrived to me like a gift. A villager speaks of Ethna. How many men did it take to drag the girl up into the island tower? Did she spit or kick? Did she try to bite through woolen binds, lifting clumps of skin hair blood beneath a fingernail? Did she struggle? Or was she simply led like a calf by hazel switch into a den? An island daughter bears the rage of pirates in her bones. An island daughter can empty tombs with a curse. Here in the aftermoon of all that followed, infants, marriage, loss, a badger lies wide open in the poison glen, red Felistram spilling out. It is written here among the heather rocks and electric eyes. She was not her father's animal. She was not her husband's prize. So it's been so wonderful to listen to the other readings. Thank you, Linda and Donna, for organising the event. I wish to thank everyone who's tuned in and listening this evening. And I wish to send you good luck for your work with Seahorse into the future. I'll end with a poem that reworks some fishing folklore. And the poem takes an old coastal tradition out of the hands of clergy and church and puts it into the hands of ordinary village women. This poem features the word solace, which is the Gaelic word for light. A blessing of the boats by the village mothers. Solace upon the hand, upon the wrist, upon the vein. On this day of sailing, we must honour the gods. Step with your right foot first into these boats that we have stitched for you from oxhide, hazel, sally rods, and dirt. With this wren's feather we bond you to light and ask that you let go old grudges against the barefoot sister, the red-haired sister, the sister who rises up fish-tailed between the rocks. Our motto is gather. A babe peers first of all through bone and water, the song of the mother before the mother becomes, the song of the mother she dreams to become. Take our dreaming as a torch. Solace upon the nose, upon the lips, upon the tongue. We rid your mouth of salt, of roses, of whistling. We good mouth your sailing. We set you off knowing what we know. Death is a mystery bell tolling at the water's end. Death is a cargo of gold on a sinking ship and a bird rising out of the wreck. Solace upon the temple, upon the brow, upon the eyelids of our loved ones who have been lost. We close their mouths with light. We light wrap their bones. We prepare for them a deathbed of willow hand woven. See how the willow bends and yields, how it folds, how it offers back, how it glows. Each blade a milk fruit, each blade a peace blade. Who can know how the wave will turn or when the wave will bolt? In the language of the mothers, a ton is both a wave and the whole ocean. We keep the light for safe return.
Well, folks, that is not just a poetry reading, that I would say is an experience. Yeah. I mean, that last poem, I'm always fascinated when you travel around Scotland. I like to travel, backpack around, and I'm always taken by these statues of iron women at the side of the water, you know, with baskets, sometimes empty, sometimes fish. But if you look at, and they've got that, if you look at the eyes, there's one up in Lewis, and the eyes of the women, you know, they're almost like the eyes of the mayor, I think, you know, the mayor in the mayor's poem. I've got a friend actually who's a horse whisperer, and if you go up and see the horses, her thing is just look in their eyes. And I was thinking that with that poem about the mother who goes down to look in the mayor's eyes, because apparently they would say, people that deal with horses, that the retina smaller is danger, and you know, different ways they look that will tell you, and apart from which they've got peripheral vision. So the mother worried about the rope, worried about the future. I just love that. She goes to the horse, and of course it has to be a female horse, and just looks at her eyes. I just, what a poem that was. And I think I loved the kind of very blunt statements of the mother. Someday you'll be beautiful. Someday the gods will bless us. It's quite curt, not cold, but just kind of matter of fact, like, you know, and this child is watching all of that. But yeah, I was thinking when you read that one at the end, I could see, as I say, the eyes of these statues have that look. They're trying to be mayor's eyes. They're trying to see everything. They're trying to be aware of danger. They're trying to see what's coming ahead. Wonderful poem, wonderful poem. And of course, all of these poems in the Poison Glen, I mean, there's such a kind of, just looking at what happened to these women, it's like asking the question, where have they gone? But then you fill in the answers. You know, there's no more silence anymore. There's no vague mist in front of this anymore. You're telling it. You're telling it in the most beautiful, as the review said. You know, it's just a couple of images that just absolutely capture that. I wanted to ask about the Hill of Saints. Is that a particular pilgrimage place in the poem when she's pegging up the white sheets?
So that's the name of the place that I grew up. Crooknaneu is Hill of the Saints, and it's a hill associated with St. Columkill, who also has a Scottish connection. And it's said that Columkill stood on the top of this hill, and he kind of battled it out with his peers over who would convert the local area to Christianity. So it kind of, the irony wasn't lost on me that we grew up on a hill, which was a kind of a site of competition between men about who would stamp out paganism and to bring in Christianity. So
I love these pagan-like women up there doing something so domestic. You know, they're feeding the children, they're pegging up the washing, but there's also this other mysterious thing about these women to do with horses. So I love that kind of rich womanist paganism, especially on a pilgrimage type space. No, I mean, I remember, I think you told me this when I met you. I did the big walk up Mount Errigal once years ago, and I think you said that's quite near the Poison Glen. Is that right?
It is. It's part of the Poison Glen. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, the Poison Glen is it's a beautiful area, and there's some speculation that the correct name of the Poison Glen is the Heavenly Glen, but that when an English cartographer was recording the name out of Irish, that he made a mistake and he called it the Poison Glen. But the words for poison and heavenly in Gaelic are very similar. But it's definitely, if you've ever been to the Poison Glen, it's kind of a haunted landscape. You just stand there and you're immersed in thousands of years of story. It's very affecting.
Yeah, it is. And I also just the poem you read about the daughter who went missing. I loved that, you know, the kind of two halves of that poem, where the first half is about all the things people should do or would do. You would imagine if someone goes missing, you know, they should be doing this, they should be getting everyone in the river bailiffs, should be pleading with the villagers, somebody must know something, all of that. And then you just say, I would be lying, just in a single line. And again, it's that, oh, here we go, you know, and it's nobody's willing to say anything. So thank you very much for everything that you have said and written about women's situation. I mean, I think all of us have heard so much about this, especially young pregnant women, you know, and it's been all over the world, but Ireland has been a huge focus of that in the past, and obviously it's enormous for you because that's where you're from. But
well,
I feel as if
thank you for all the support of the book, Linda, and for all your teaching and spreading the poetry word. And it's lovely to have new readers in Scotland as well. And what a great time we had when you came to Ireland. A very fond memories of the reading in Hodges Figgis. It was probably one of the most fun poetry readings that I've ever been at. There was great energy. I think somebody might have had a bottle of whiskey in a bag as well. They were threatening to bring it out. So it was unlike any other poetry reading I'd been to, but it was so good. It was so much fun and lovely to connect with Scottish writers. So it's great to have that conversation happening between Ireland and Scotland.
you have connected enormously, and you know, it's, I mean, although we see this lot of womanist things, and it's not, this is just politics at a very fundamental, anthropological, necessary place to have this work. So please, folks, I mean, I know I've been saying it to everyone for ages now since I got my hands on it. This is a testimony, really, it's a testimony, and I'd like to thank you very much for writing it, because my family are from Ireland and I have similar stories that I know, you know, that I haven't heard, but I know they were there and they're hushed up just in the same way that we read about in there. So thank you very much, everyone. What did you think, Donna? Thanks, Annemarie. What do you think, Donna? Did you enjoy it?
Just sitting here, my heart is quietly singing. It's been an absolutely amazing night, and the amount of comments that have been coming through in the chat. I like the one that Kat McCulloch has written. It's astounding to hear them all in your poems, Annemarie. All the voices of the traditions that have been and could be imaginings of potential histories. How lovely is that? Just the amount of messages that have come through here. Also as well, Morag has put up a link for her book, and Finn also has put up a link for the new Pitsligo Festival. If anyone would love to come up to that, a fantastic festival, so it is. And Linda, did you mention SCAP's festival in August?
No, but I did notice that you mentioned fantastic there. Does that mean I can say? I
Did I say fantastic?
I think we should say 3, 2, 1.
Fantastic. Did I say fantastic?
You did.
Oh,
You can't
for
help it. It's
God's
every day.
sake.
It's every day.
Sorry, folks. Sorry, folks.
We love it. It's part of it. It's our signature now. Anyway, we're having a festival, SCAP. Please look on the website. I'm just trying to kind of feed it to the guy. It's www.scapscotland.com. So it's just scapscotland.com. You'll see some of the things there. You'll see this recorded. You'll see various things. But we managed to get lottery funding for the SCAP Summer Festival in August the 26th and 27th. So I hope to be contacting some of you to get you over to appear in that. But there'll be flamenco dancing, there'll be the artists' work displayed, there'll be the launch of the Writing the World book by asylum seekers. And I'm trying to get a very big name for that, but I can't see it until it's in the dotted line. And we're hoping to launch another book called Out of the Blue at that, and I might speak to, we can maybe get in touch with people from that about that. So yeah, so SCAP Scotland, the Poison Glen, Morag Anderson, please look up these wonderful writers who've given of their time this evening and filled us with thinking and filled us with, I think, an emotional, I just love it. It's like a river when I come off this. My head's buzzing in a very, very positive way. So thank you to Allan Gaw. Thank you to Finn Hall. Thank you so much to Morag Anderson. And our special guest tonight, unforgettable, I have to say, Annemarie Ni Churreain. And I would also like to thank Mark for being so helpful and bringing everyone in and helping us to get it set up. And I think we could bring in our audience now and just say thank you very much to a lot of you as well for being here, because it would be rubbish if you didn't turn up. So can we give our writers a huge round of applause, everyone, please? I feel like singing. I feel like singing.
Hey, please do.
That would be too loud. It would be too loud. Anyway, so thank you very much, everyone. Thanks to Donna. Thanks to me. Thanks to my kitchen. Thanks to the gin. And thanks to all of you for coming along.
Thank you to everyone for coming along. Thank you. Good night. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Mm.
Bye.